Did that phrase, the body they may kill, his word abides forever. We're in the book of 1 Peter. And that was so true of the people that Peter is writing to. As Peter is writing in Rome, Nero is killing Christians right and left. And the people that Peter writes to are kind of on the fringes outside of the Roman Empire, and they're kind of backwoods kind of people. And Peter writes to them because they're concerned that that persecution is going to get eventually out where they live. And so Peter writes them, and he spends 2 books actually really laying out a whole bunch of principles to help them should they lose their life because they call themselves Christian. And so we've been through chapter 1. He's talked about the idea that you're chosen. Don't allow your past to define you. But the fact that God has chosen you, that God has given you an inheritance that is unlike anything this world has to offer. He talks about the idea that you need to realize your salvation is a big deal. God has done an awful lot in order to be able to save you. And he expects us to love one another, to actually love each other fervently. And then he encourages us to push aside things. You're going to see it again today. Push aside things that are going to hurt us. Get rid of them. There are certain things as a believer that just don't need to be in your life, and you need to just get rid of those things. And then we talked last week about the idea that for the world, Jesus Christ is like I put a traffic cone up here. He's like that traffic cone. It's a stumbling block, something they're always having to figure out a way around. But for us, it's become the cornerstone, the capstone, the keystone of our faith. And this morning, we're actually coming to the key verse of 1 Peter. This is the verse on which the whole book basically surrounds itself around. And it starts in verse 9. And he's going to list 4 characteristics for those of us that are Christian. And here's what he says. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, people belonging to God, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful life. Once you were not a people, but now you are a people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So let's walk through some of that. And let's make sure we understand what Peter's saying. He starts by saying, you are a chosen people. You are someone who God picked out to save. That's what he says. For some of you, you know that my wife and I have put into our yearly schedule time to get away, time to travel. And so for Easter this year, my wife and I, one of the things we've started doing is we love going to national parks. So we've got a little scratch map in our living room of national parks. And once we go to one of them, we scratch them off. So one of the ones we had not been to was Hot Springs, Arkansas. So this year, we drove down to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now, 2 days before we got down there, it started to rain. And it rained for 2 days straight. We get to Hot Springs, we just explore. We just have all kinds of fun trying new things. So on the way, I told my wife, "Oop, what happened?"
Keep going.
Well, that's easy for you to say. So on the way down, it rained for 2 days, and so I'm in a motel the night before, and I said, "Hey, honey, I just found out Hot Springs, Arkansas is known for its quartz mining." I said, "Within an hour of Hot Springs, there's all kinds of quartz mining." I said, "You want to go quartz mining?" She said, "You want to do?" Sure. So we were actually going to go diamond mining, but then we decided quartz mining, we had a better chance. So there's a diamond mine. Anyway, it's a long story. So we're going to do quartz mining. So that morning, I end up getting up, going to Home Depot, buying some 5-gallon buckets, a shovel, gloves. Then we went to Walmart and I got boots. And we decided to go, is this going to work or not, boys? To my next one. Yeah. So this was us, quartz mining, okay? And this is my wife in her heyday. We just had a ball. She said, "I can't believe people, we're going to tell people, we went on a trip." Is that the only one that's, okay. What are you guys doing back there?
That one went out.
Huh?
That one went out, now the whole side's out. Yeah. You're good.
Is that switch flipped? Look at that. Okay. All right. Just look at this one. This is my wife. So we do the quartz mining thing, okay? And we had a ball. She said, I can't believe we're going to tell people. We went on vacation. What'd you do? We played in the mud for a day. But we had a ball. Now, here's the thing. We ended up with a bunch of pieces of quartz. In fact, we came home with 6 5-gallon buckets full of rocks, okay? They're all in front of my house right now. But we were after those little bitty quartz pieces, okay? And we ended up with a bunch of those. So we spent the rest of the vacation looking for a deal to be able to put them in, a bowl that sits in our living room. We couldn't find one. I told Gina, I said, we got a glass blowing business. Let's make one. But one of the things Josh and I have been wanting to do is we're working on a technique to be able to take glass and blow it over top of rocks or driftwood. So I said, here's what we'll do. I said, we will learn and figure out how to do that. And I said, so what we're going to do, but I said, I need a special rock. I said, I have to have just the right rock, okay? So, so this is all going to go wrong today. So, this is the rock that I'm going to do. Now, here's the thing, okay? So, I had a slide up there to show you all the rocks that I had to choose from, but those guys messed it all up. So, I didn't. There it is. Okay, so, anyway, we go to the rock shop, and here's all these rocks. And by the way, there's a whole other table behind it. So we're looking for a rock. I need a very specific rock. To do what I need to do, I have to have a flat spot right here. So this lady was trying to help me. She's like, oh, what about this one? And what about this one? And what about this one? And I wanted to say, shut up, go inside, let me pick the rock. I know exactly what I'm looking for. You can't help me, you know. And even my wife, she's like, what about this one? Finally, she realized, I'm just going to walk away. So anyway, this is the rock I picked. Now, here's the thing. This is the rock that I chose. It's not the biggest rock there. It's not the smallest rock. There are rocks that look prettier. There are rocks that looked uglier. There are rocks that were bigger. I picked this one because I had an absolute specific use for this rock. This is a chosen rock. God said, I chose you. I have a plan. I have a purpose. I know what I want to do. I have a specific reason I chose you. And when Peter writes to these people, this is what he said. You are a chosen people. And then he goes on and he says, a royal priesthood. You guys got me scared now. A royal priesthood. A priest was a big deal. The priest represented God to the people. The priest was the one who had access to God. And it's interesting. He calls the priesthood here royal. In the Old Testament, there was priests and kings were separate deals. When Jesus Christ comes on the scene, he comes in as prophet, priest, and king. He combines them. Peter here combines them. He says, look, you are a royal priesthood. You have the opportunity to represent God to people. You have the opportunity to go before God with the people, for the people. And then he says, you are a holy nation. The word holy is a fascinating word. It's the word hagios. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when I had the trash can up here and my shop rags? Okay. Well, I have not gotten rid of them yet. I still have more use out of them. Here's the word hagios. Here's what it means. You remember I was throwing these things away and I said, throw them away, pitch them, get them as far as you can. Well, I just couldn't let them go. So they're still in my shop, okay? But hagios has this idea. You take rags like this. You clean them up. And then you put them back into original service. It would be like taking... I think this is a Harley shirt. Yeah, this is a Harley shirt, okay? Taking this shirt, okay? Getting it all cleaned up and then wearing it again. That's what he says. That's what God did with your life. He took your dirty, nasty life, cleaned it up with the blood of Jesus Christ, and then made it so you could go back out into the world. That's what Peter's saying. You are a holy nation, a holy nation, a people belonging to God. Some translation, the King James says a peculiar people. The idea is that you are a people who God has now put together and God has brought together as a unique thing. He's going to expand on this in the next two verses. But notice what he says, who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. And he says, once you were not a people, but now you're a people. Once you did not have mercy, but now you have been given mercy. And he talks about this idea of once you were not a people, now you are a people. All right, when you go back to 1 Peter chapter 1, and you look at the nations that he's writing to, you know what? You find those nations in Acts chapter 2. So let me give you a time frame here so you can put this thing together so that you understand this. The nations that he writes this book to are found in Acts chapter 2. 33 AD, we have Pentecost. People hear the gospel in their own language. They then go back to this area, okay? In about 50-ish, 53 AD, Paul's on his second missionary journey, and Paul says, I want to go up to that area. And the Holy Spirit says, you can't go up there. A lot of Bible scholars believe the reason the Holy Spirit did not encourage Paul in his second missionary journey to go to this area, because Peter was already ministering to these people. Because in 63 AD, Peter writes to these people. Follow this now. These people got saved in 30 AD at Pentecost. 33 years later, Peter is now writing to them. At the beginning of his ministry, he talked to these people. At the end of his ministry, he's talking to these people. He's going to die in another 4 years. So what's happening is Peter writes to them and he says, look, in the beginning, you weren't a people. You were a bunch of yahoos gathered at Pentecost who heard the gospel. Now, you have shared the gospel and this place has grown and you guys have grown and now you have become a people now. A people that I'm writing this book to. Back then you had not received mercy. Now all of a sudden you are a people that has received mercy. He said, you are an incredible group of people. That's what Peter is saying. And then he goes on. Notice what he says. Dear friends, I urge you. Now, first of all, dear friends is the word beloved. You want a fascinating study? Peter, by the way, uses it 8 times in this book. You want a fascinating study? Think about Peter for a minute. After the crucifixion, what was the discussion between Jesus and Peter? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Now Peter is writing to these people and he's going, dear people that I love, dearly beloved, dear friends, I urge you, as aliens and strangers. Again, fascinating idea. Aliens has the idea of kind of coming along into. Strangers has the idea of living beside. So what he's saying is, you now are like a group of people who have come alongside and are living alongside in the world. And look at what he tells them. Abstain from sinful desires. Abstain means get away, push it away from your life. Which war against your soul, because all they're going to do is hurt your soul. Some of them are good things, by the way, but they'll hurt your soul. Many of you are like me. You know what's on my list this week to do in my house? Weeds. They're popping up everywhere. They're popping up all over my yard. You want to know what my goal this week is? Kill them. I may pull out the old torch and burn them. I may grab the insect or all of the chemical stuff and just obliterate them. The only problem is I tend to get it on other plants. I may put down, W2, or not W2, but 2,4-D. 2,4-D, we'll use a little Roundup. We'll do, I got all kinds of things in my arsenal to get rid of weeds. But what if, instead of I have dandelions in my yard right now, okay? I hate those things growing up in my yard. What if though, but again, I understand dandelions, by the way, you understand they're good for you? You can do all kinds of great things with, there's medicinal issues, there's all kinds of things that you can do with dandelion. But let's just say, okay, I decide to have a discussion with one of the dandelions that's growing in my yard. And the discussion is going something like this. Now look, I want you to just stay right here, and I will leave you alone this year. I will let you grow. I will harvest you. I will make tea from you. I will get all of the beneficial stuff that I can from you. But you just have to stay right here. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to go to seed. They're going to get everywhere. They're going to get root. They're going to do all kinds of crazy things. Then why do we do that with our lives? Well, I know it's bad for me, and I know that I shouldn't do it, but I'm just going to do a little bit of it. You know what Peter says to these people? Abstain. Push it as far away from you as you can. Here's why. It will hurt your soul. That's what he says. There are things that we're doing. Some of them are not bad things, but they're hurting our soul. And Peter says, get rid of them. Put some distance between you and them. And then he goes on and says this, live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify on the day you visit. This is a fascinating. Peter does something here that the only way we can understand it is if we could read Greek, okay? There are two different words he uses for good here. Most of the time in the Bible, when the word good is used, we have the idea of morally good. That's the concept that most of us think. And most of the time in the Bible, that's what it means. Not here. The second word means that, not the first word. See where he says, live such good lives among the pagans? Good here goes far beyond just a moral aspect. Good here adds beauty to it. Something that is appealing to the eyes. Here's what he's saying. You live a life that is morally good, but that as people look at you, there's a beauty about it. There's something about it that somebody says, you know what? I really like them. I wish I could be like them. I wish I could be friends with them. There's a beauty about your life. That's what Peter said. You live in such a way, because you know as well as I do. I know people who morally and biblically and Christian-wise can say all of the right things. And I don't want to be anywhere near them. Because they're judgmental, and they are quick to make comments, and they are quick to tear down, and they stand up on their high pedestal, and all of that kind of stuff. There is nothing appealing about their lifestyle. That's what Peter says. Don't be those kind of people. Be people that you have a good moral life that is appealing to people, that has something that is attractive, that is beautiful about it. And then here's what he goes on to say. Though they accuse you of doing wrong. Peter here does not say they might accuse you of doing wrong. Maybe they will attack you. Peter just assumes they're going to attack you. And by the way, when Peter writes this, do you know what Christians are being accused of in this time period? First of all, they're accused of being atheists. And the reason they're accused of being atheists is because they worship in places without idols. So they are the people who have no gods. We call those people atheists. They are considered to be rebels. Actually, they're considered to be terrorists in this culture. And the reason they're considered to be terrorists is they declined to worship Caesar. So they were considered anti-government, and be so much anti-government that they were considered and looked at as terrorists. So they're accused of being terrorists. They were also accused of being cannibals. Come, join our church. We're a bunch of cannibal terrorists. You know why they're considered cannibals? Because they ate the body of Jesus Christ and drank his blood. That was who Peter's writing to. And Peter writes and he goes, look, and by the way, they were being wrongfully accused. They were being slandered. Many of them were going to the lion's den or being killed because of their faith, because people were making up stuff about them. Peter says, look, they're going to attack you. And it bothers me. You know, I read some of this Christian stuff. It's like, all of our values are being threatened today. Duh. Our values have been threatened for 2,000 years. What makes you think something's going to magically change in 2024? I mean, come on. Yes. Why? Because we stand for everything that they're against. And you have to understand that. That's why Peter says, look, you need to live such a good life that the pagans, even though they're going to attack you, they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. He said, you're going to live in such a way that they see God. You know what? You might die because you call yourself a Christian. But as they put you to death, they're going to sit back and go, boy, I hate to do this. Because you've lived that well. That's what Peter's saying. So let's talk about two things for us as we head into this week. Here's the first thing. You belong to God. If you're a Christian this morning, your life's not yours. You belong to God. You are a chosen people. You are a royal priesthood. You are a holy nation. You are people of God. So why do you think you get to call the shots? Why do you think that you can do, your life should be this way? You don't get that choice. When you said, I'm going to put my faith and trust in Jesus Christ, I'm going to follow Jesus Christ, what you were saying is, here's my life, you do with it whatever you want. It's you signed a blank check to God, is what you did. Your life, my life, they belong to God. Our job is to live in such a way that this world sees God in us. I like what one writer said. He said, being a Christian is like being a boat. He said, there's a tricky part about being a boat. He said, when a boat is in the water, so think of your Christian life as a boat, think of the water as the world. He said, you put the boat in the water, and that boat serves a tremendous amount of purposes. It can help people. You can fish from it. You can sleep in it. You can do all kinds of things in that boat in the water. It serves a great purpose. But if you let the water get into the boat loses its purpose. And the boat is now not something that helps you. The boat now becomes something that hurts you and may cost you your life, because now you may drown. That's the idea. We are in the world to help save the world, but we don't want to let the world get in the boat. That's the idea. It was interesting. Jimmy and I had the privilege this week of, we went to a pastor's conference together. So it started early on Thursday morning. I said, let's drive down early. I said, we'll spend the night. We'll get a motel. My wife's like, you did get him a different room from you, right? You're not going to do that to the poor guy. I said, no, he got his room. I got my room. I said, don't worry. I said, so anyway, so we did that, and I said, hey, look, we got an opportunity. Let's run down. I said, I got a friend who pastors in Lincoln, Nebraska. I said, I'll call him ahead of time. We'll set it all up. We'll go spend 5 hours with Josh. Josh Luce is a pastor down there. They're pastoring downtown Lincoln, Nebraska, reaching college kids for Christ. Phenomenal ministry to follow this thing. This thing is just taken off, and they barely control the thing. And it's just so exciting to see what God's doing there. And so we spent the afternoon with Josh. And I said, Josh is I'm the old guy, you're the young guy, Josh is the middle guy. I said, so, we can kind of work off each other and what we're learning and what God's doing and all this. So we spent some time with Josh. And the next day we spent time with a whole bunch of pastors, rural pastors, for the day and a seminar thing. One of the things that happened is that when we were dealing with, at the seminar, they brought up there was a study done, I think it was 2007, at Thomas Rainier. They really dug into this whole church thing. They said, why do people walk away from church? What brings people back? And it's probably one of the most exhaustive studies that's ever been done. Here's what they found. They found that 2 things were really significant in people coming back to church. And they said, no matter who they talked to, these 2 things in some way, shape, or form popped up. The first thing was this. The reason they came back to church is because they knew a church that was either real and authentic, or they knew a believer who was real and authentic. In other words, they knew somebody who wasn't fake. They knew, this is what Peter's saying. They knew somebody whose life was appealing. And when people looked at them, they said, I don't know that they've got it. I don't know that I agree with them all and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I know that it's working for them. And they said they found that was a significant thing that brought people back to church. And they said the second idea that was often involved was this. There was a life change or a life crisis. Sometimes it was a birth of a child. Sometimes it was a wedding. Sometimes it was a funeral. Sometimes it was they went through a health deal. Sometimes it was financially issue came up. But they found that it was a significant life event that occurred in their life. And often there was something that was authentic about somebody or a church that they knew. That's what Peter's saying. You go out and you live in such a way that when those people need someone to turn to, yours is the name they think of. And you have an opportunity to share with them your God. It was interesting because one of the discussions I had with Josh, Josh said, look, here's the deal. I said, you are in hip deep here in the middle of this crazy liberal college culture mindset in 2024. I said, how do you guys as pastors deal with the political environment, the social environment, the sexual environment with the LGBTQ stuff? I said, how do you handle that with these college kids? You know what he said? I still haven't been able to shake it. You know what he told me? It doesn't matter to them. I said, what do you mean it doesn't matter to them? He said, here's what we found. They want truth. They don't have to agree with you. They just want somebody to stand up and say, this is what is true. And they are watching. And by the way, it's phenomenal. There's a group with them, with their group, their Christian Missionary Alliance Church, and there's a Southern Baptist Church that's doing the same thing. Here's their goal. And this is phenomenal. This is, by the way, as Christians, you ought to get excited because here's what's happening on college campuses right now with this thing. I mean, you see all the stuff on the media. There's something else that's going on too. Nobody's telling you about. Here's what they're doing. They are reaching kids at the college campus level, and they're discipling them. And then they're telling them, we want you to go and get a job somewhere. And then we want you to start a church wherever you have a job. And they have small groups that are starting to do this. So a guy's getting a job, say, in Kearney, Nebraska, and a couple other guys go, hey, I'll come with you too. And then they are all purposely taking jobs in that area to plant churches. And they're starting to see this thing multiply. Okay? Okay, so one of the things that's happening there, for instance, they have a building our size. Okay? I mean, it's our size. Okay? Just basically just like this. They're getting 400 people in there. They're at 4 services a week right now. We're literally, he goes, it's pretty tight in here. I mean, their chairs are like this far apart. You're going like, to get in the chair. It's so awesome to see that. You know why? This is exactly what they're saying. They're saying, you know what? God's called us to be a light in a dark world. We're going to be a light in a dark world wherever God has put us. And we are going to have a life that is attractive so that people want to know more about God. And we're not going to play games. We're going to tell you the truth. And this is the truth. This is what God says. And he says, here's what we're finding. That's what people are looking for. And I will tell you right now, we are so flimsy-pansy stuff with this stuff. We try to tiptoe around all this stuff instead of saying, you know what, here's what the Bible says. Love you, but here's what the Bible says. And let people deal with it. People are hungry for that. And Peter says, look, you may lose your life, but you go be a light. Because you are a holy nation. You are a peculiar people. You are chosen. You are a royal priesthood. Go act like it. And then the second idea is this. We have to start going out into this world with this mindset. You're a tourist in this world. You know what? You know what I learned about being a tourist? And my wife will tell you, this is our new mantra now whenever we travel. If they got a Walmart, we can buy it. So if we forget it, don't worry about it. So packages become a whole lot easier. It's like, if I forget that, I can pick it up. You know what? Tourists travel light. Tourists don't haul a lot of stuff with them, those of you who own fifth wheels. I mean, seriously, I'm gonna camp. Let's load it all up. And you get all this stuff. It's like, this isn't being a tourist or a camper. This is, I don't have any problem with it because I got honest with you. If I'm traveling, that's the way I'm doing it. I don't want it, but you know what? When you're a tourist, you're not comfortable. It's not your home. It's not your bed. It's not your place. It's not your routine. Why are we trying to get so comfortable here? This ain't home. We're tourists here. Our home's in heaven. Our citizenship's in heaven. Why do we get so attached here? I'm just going to tell you. And maybe it's an age thing. The older I get, the more funerals I do, the less appealing this world is. Because this ain't home. It's not. And I think sometimes we forget that. I think sometimes we forget. We're just pilgrims here. We're just journeying here. We're just missionaries here. God's put us here. We're aliens and strangers. We live among the people. We learn what we can. We try to reach them for Christ. And we try not to let their world impact our world. We try to live differently so that our lives look appealing and they want what we have. You know what our problem is most of the time? We forget what we have. You get the privilege to call yourself a Christian, a chosen person, a holy, I wish it looked better than it would if I spent some time on it, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. A peculiar people. Just act like it this week. Just act like it. So I end this morning with this concept. We belong to God. Therefore, He can do whatever He wants with our lives. He wants to use us as a light in a really dark world. We've got to stay away from things that are going to hurt our soul. And our lives need to reflect him in such a way that it is beautiful and appealing to a people who live in a very dark, messed up world. Let's pray. Lord, help us. This world has such an appeal and such a pull on us. May we live in such a way, Lord, that heaven has a greater pull. May we get to a point in our lives that as people look at us, we are the kind of people they want to hang around. That, Lord, our places that we're going to go to work tomorrow, they would love to have more people who are like us. That in school, teachers would love to have us in their classroom because they know it'll be a better class because of us. Lord, help us to be that kind of people. And when it's all said and done, may we all be able to gather around your throne, rejoicing in the fact that, Lord, you chose us, you've made us a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a people that originally were not a people. These things we ask in your name.